Hello and welcome to Girls in Hoodies. My name is Emily Yoshida. I'm an editor at Grantland.com and with me is
Molly Lambert, a writer at Grantland.
We want to start off with some True Detective news.
Boop, boop.
Some real True Detective news after so many rumors. I would say we're pretty invested in the outcome or the fate of this second season.
We'll be watching it.
I mean, we'll definitely be watching it, but it's weird. It is weird to think that it is going to be essentially a completely new show.
I feel like it'll be like The Wire season 2. It'll be divisive. People who like it will like it better, and there'll be a whole contrarian faction of like, this is the best season.
Yeah.
I mean, I like The Wire season 2 a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that for me that's like I of course will watch it and I'll go in with an open mind and everything, but I think the thing that's like slightly troubling at this point is that if you think about all the elements that you loved about True Detective season 1, I'd say that the lowest on the rung of all those things, or lowest rung, would be Nick Pizzolatto.
I don't know about that. I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the writing. I know that a lot of people have some issues with sort of the reappropriating Nietzsche and stuff like that, but it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people, maybe because I don't recognize the specific passages. But also, I think it's funny. I think it has jokes. That's what made me like it. And when the criticism that it was so self-serious, I didn't ever really get that because I always thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not that so much. I think it's not like the words that are actually on the page, but I guess his specific vision and the thing that's going to be consistent between the different seasons. Like I totally agree. I think that it was funny, and I think that the tone was right. Like it was right in that good medium point between this sort of kooky mysticism and like hard-boiled cop show and everything.
I also just don't think he's as crazy macho as people paint him as being, and what I am basing that on is that somebody who was
I'm not going to say anything mean.
Student in a grad class, his grad student literary class said that he assigned like Alice Munro stories and stuff, where I'm like, okay, you read Alice Munro, like, that's a pretty good sign that you are into stories about women. Yeah.
I don't know. He's just so mockable at this point. It's so hard.
You know, somebody wears a fedora, they're sort of asking for me to make fun of them, but I could make fun of any of those kind of...
Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel like Aaron Sorkin is much more mockable than Nick Pizzolatto, because Aaron Sorkin... The Newsroom isn't a good show.
Well, Aaron Sorkin, the joke writes itself. Like, I don't know. He's just, we've expounded many times on him, but I mean,
I guess I care. I like mysteries and crime fiction.
Sure, and
hard-boiled humans.
Yeah, hard-boiled humans and hair.
I'm ready. Yeah, the casting came out.
Yeah.
And it was confirmed that Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn are in it, which has been sort of more controversial than I assumed, because I feel like that has been out there for a while. It just wasn't confirmed.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that like people have, you know, perpetuated all these rumors and spread them and everything, and when they actually get confirmed, then it's like, oh, I have feelings about this now. And I don't know. I mean, I think I'm actually very interested in Colin Farrell in it. I'm not as stoked on Vince Vaughn, but whatever. Like, let him do his thing.
Yeah, I love Colin Farrell. I feel like that's a good fit.
Yeah.
And Vince Vaughn, you know, people are like, oh, Vince Vaughn's not a good serious actor, but it's like, well, maybe he'll be kind of weird and funny, like the weird...
Like Woody or something.
Or like the weird, like the Yellow King, like the guy who played...
Oh yeah, because he's playing a crime boss or a professional criminal or something like that. And Colin Farrell will be one of the cops. And they haven't...
You know, I have a deep-seated love for Vince Vaughn, I'm afraid. I think it's just...
That's cool.
You know, it's not. It's totally from Swingers, and it'll last forever because of Swingers. You know, like when I wrote about Kevin Smith last week, and I was watching Mallrats again, and I was just realizing how much I imprinted on Jason Lee in those movies. You know, where I was like, oh, I wanted to be Jason Lee, and I wanted to like date Jason Lee, like just the really like fast-talking '90s guy that is Vince Vaughn, also in Swingers. And I don't know. I think maybe he hasn't done anything that I love so much in a while, but there are parts of Wedding Crashers that I really liked. That was all probably Owen Wilson too.
I've never seen Wedding Crash.
What?
Never seen it.
Were you just asleep that year?
I do remember, I think, what my life was like that year, and I think it didn't involve seeing a lot of comedies. I wasn't seeing a lot of comedies.
I would really love for Owen Wilson to be on True Detective. That's my real dream.
That would be good.
I think just Owen Wilson in a Western is something that needs to happen at some point. And
wasn't he in, like, Shanghai Noon or something
which is great. Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights, which are both really good.
Yeah.
I like those movies.
I haven't seen them either.
They're
sorry,
really funny.
Sorry, Owen. I'm showing my ignorance to the less loved part of your career.
No, that's a well loved. I think.
It doesn't. It's not like it's not an Anderson movie or something.
Right, but he was responsible for all the funny stuff in all the Wes Anderson movies.
No, I mean, I'm saying, like, it's not a Wes Anderson movie, and it's not, like, the first thing you think of when you think of Owen Wilson. And
I don't know if that is the first thing I think of when I think of Owen Wilson. I feel like
What is the first thing you think of when you think of Owen Wilson?
I guess it's Dignan, now that you say it that way. About all his unrealized potential, and how much I would like for him to write a script, and how I feel like it might never happen.
That's actually a good game to play in general. Like, close your eyes, imagine an actor, and what's the first thing you think of?
You know what I realize the first thing I think of is about this Playboy interview he did once where he just said a bunch of things that stayed with me, and one of them was about how when he was in high school, that he just had a face that looked like he wasn't paying attention. And even when he was paying attention, that the teachers would be like, thought he was mocking them, because he just like looks like he's sort of mocking you. And that Luke Wilson got away with everything because Luke Wilson is good at having like a fake paying attention face.
Mirroring.
And that he got in trouble in high school, and they made him like run laps around the track outside, and he started like kicking a ball around, and they were like, stop it, stop having fun, stop making this into something that's fun for you. And he also quoted some line from Moby Dick about like, when you see a boat and you like, every man can like imagine himself at sea. Stuff like that. That's what I think about.
That's pretty good then, though.
It's really good.
I think that's great.
On him.
He's doing well inside your head.
Inside my head, yes.
So back to True Detective though. So they haven't. So we have also a more fleshed out storyline and who our characters are going to be. So there are going to be 3 cops and this criminal mastermind played by Vince Vaughn. Colin Farrell is one of the cops. The other 2 have yet to be cast. One of them is a female cop. And
the list went from sort of exciting to sort of very random seeming.
Yeah, a lot of the potential. Well, both the other cop and the potential female cop are like, a lot of them are more in the realm of TV actors and I feel like kind of part of the excitement of True Detective is that getting like a real kind of movie star to do that kind of role.
That's dumb, because TV actors there are lots of great TV actors.
Yeah.
And also that's not true, because Elizabeth Moss was in the running.
Yeah.
She's sort of a great TV actor, and then Rachel McAdams, I know, was the other person, and she maybe has already dropped out, and then I heard Keira Knightley this week.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one.
Which I actually think, I like kind of have grown to love Keira Knightley. Like, I never had a problem with her, but she seems very smart when you read interviews with her, and she made a Lynn Shelton movie last year called Laggies. Like, she's very big on, like, I gotta make my own projects happen, because otherwise I'll just be playing Anna Karenina forever, which is a good life also.
Yeah. But, I rewatched, what was a few weeks ago, I think I rewatched Bend It Like Beckham, which I hadn't seen in a long time. That is a solid movie.
Oh yeah, charming.
That is such a solid,
That's why we all liked
movie.
her in the first place.
Yeah, and I forgot, like, this is where we all met that girl, and also that girl who was on ER for a while. I forget her name now, but yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know. It's always interesting to go back, I think, and get reminded of, like, why a person, especially, like, a movie star that you think of as being boring or being typecast in a lot of things, you're like, oh, well, that person was very charming in this,
I also loved Anna Karenina.
Did I see that? Oh, I did see that. I did see that Anna Karenina. That was a fun Anna Karenina.
It was great.
It was
as fun as it can be.
Anna Karenina as you could ask for.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah. No, that was
The guy who played the kind of like redhead guy who played the regular, the farmer character. He was very good also.
A good ginger.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like how Jude Law is playing all these like weird ugly guys now.
Yeah, it's because he's balding.
But it's interesting. It's like he.
Yeah, no, I'm into it.
So Keira Knightley, that's I'd be into
Yeah,
that.
that's interesting. I mean, I don't know if I buy her as a cop.
Well,
to be
I don't
honest,
like
but-
that all the actresses on the list are all kind of hot, because I was kind of hoping. My dream was like, let's get somebody who is.
I want a Catherine Keener so bad.
Catherine Keener. You know who I've been thinking about nonstop is Mira Sorvino.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Because I watched Summer of Sam last week for the first time, and it's so good. It's just, it's so hot that I was like, let's watch movies about it being really hot and everybody going crazy. So I watched that, and she's so great, and she and John Leguizamo are both just like so good that I was like,
she's one of those people
let's put
who
her and
just-
John Leguizamo in True Detective.
That actually, I would totally watch that. Too.
John Leguizamo
There's so
also
many-
really underrated.
Yeah, yeah.
But
man.
yeah, Mira Sorvino, I was just like, or just like how, I guess I was also thinking about Amy Ryan on The Wire, just like, let's get some actresses that are really good and underrated and give them something really just like meaty and cool to do, because that seems like kind of the...
The only reason I guess I wasn't even really complaining, but I was just like stating the fact that it feels like most of the actresses in the running, except for Keira Knightley, if that's true, are TV actors, is that it seems like, the guys that they're all looking at are these, A-list-ish type male movie stars, and then they're looking at a TV B-list actress, and it just makes it feel like that role then is not going to be, like, it's not going to be teed up to be this major thing, or maybe
we don't know.
We have no
don't
idea.
know.
But that's just I'm
keeping an open mind.
I'm talking optics.
We're
here.
gonna get Alice Munro to play
Okay.
the other detective. That's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, and then the other guy is supposed to be.
Look, we've got American Horror Story Freak Show for all of
I'm
our.
not looking forward. Like, I don't like their ads right now.
Really?
No. I'm not into it.
I'm not into it either, but every year I'm like, I'm gonna give it another try, and I'm gonna watch the first episode and get into it, and I always want to get into it.
I always watch like 5 solid episodes every year of American Horror Story, and I never make it past that. And I'm always like, this is really fun. I might get into this year. And it's never that definable. It's always just like I figure it out. I figure out the game they're playing with whatever that season is, and I just sort of get. I'm not that big of a horror person.
Really?
No, I'm not.
But you're going to every Halloween horror haunt?
Yeah. Well, I want to be proven wrong that I can't get scared by rides or movies.
You can't?
I can't.
Do you think you're going to get scared by...
I want to get scared.
I get scared just thinking about Not Scary Farm, because it also makes me think about, like, being 13.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that's the worst one. I mean, I've heard that's secretly the scariest.
They invented it.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last week.
Yeah, where they just had the employees come out.
We were talking about dark rides a lot last week, and then I went into a YouTube hole of watching a billion dark ride-through videos, and I found my new holy grail, which is at Blackpool Beach in England, which has a big beachside amusement park that's very old and storied, and I guess it's one of the first dark rides called the Ghost Train. That's like an old type of dark ride. And they have a ride called Ghost Train that is just like a haunted house ride, dark ride basically, that has Tangerine Dream as the soundtrack. And I watched it.
Great.
It's so cool, so spooky. And they have another one there that looks really amazing that's called the River Cave, which I guess River Cave is like a dark ride, a water dark ride that doesn't have thrills, it doesn't have drops or anything, so like It's a Small World is a river cave.
Or Pirates.
Yeah, no, Pirates has a couple drops though.
They're like
baby drops,
half a
but
story.
it's called something different if it has drops. It's called like a log flume.
Flume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then I watched a bunch of the Harry Potter rides.
Oh
and
man, how
they
are
were
those?
disappointing because it's all video stuff, which is not what I want.
Really?
It's
Now you
all
want
like,
animatronics in there.
no, and you know what? One of them, which is called Escape from Gringotts, which is like the bank, I think.
Yeah, it's the bank.
The lobby for that one looks amazing, and the lobby for that one has like 3 or 4 animatronic sort of troll men that are the bankers.
Oh yeah.
That they pan over.
I know those dudes.
The animatronics are so good that it freaked me out.
Oh,
'Cause I
wow.
was like, those robots look like humans. Let's just be real about what these are. They're
Yeah.
robots. And made me really excited to watch the ride, and then the ride was like a letdown because it was all just like Harry Potter flying by on a video screen and being like, "Follow me!
I will say though,
Follow me to Hogwarts!"
you can't get away with just video on the inside unless you are just doing a VR thing or Star Tours or something.
Right, but Star Tours sucks. It does.
Molly.
I'm sorry. Wouldn't you rather have a ride that had animatronics of Star Wars characters than just
Well,
like
I was just
being
about to.
shaken around?
You've completely preempted my point. My point was that if you do have that kind of ride, it's really awesome to have like a really entertaining line situation, and
Right.
that's what Star Tours has. Star Tours has R2-D2 and
But then
C-3PO.
it's like
you're in a travel agency, an intergalactic travel agency.
Right, but
It's
that's
really
so much
cute.
cooler than the ride.
Well, I mean, I think that both are pretty cool. I remember like writing enthusiastically about this after the first time I went to Disneyland when I was like 5. I was like, that was the thing I wanted to like tell my class about. Was how I saw
But was
what
that
I did
because
with
you
my
were
summer.
already a Star Wars fan?
Oh yeah.
So you were just like, things I've seen.
Things I've seen that have impressed me.
I was also learning about there's a new Snow White ride at Disney World.
Oh, really?
That they replaced Snow White's Scary Adventures, which is one of the oldest rides.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a ride called the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is kind of like Big Thunder Mountain, but, with...
Minecraft.
Yeah. But they always do this. They just repurposed the animatronics. They didn't make new animatronics. They just used the existing animatronics from Snow White's Scary
weird.
Adventures. And because the animatronics are old, they put them like inside of a house. So you're like looking at them through a window so that you wouldn't
You can't see
notice.
all the
Yeah.
like rotting paint and stuff.
Yeah, which I think is
so weird.
fascinating. Yeah, and I mean Splash Mountain, I feel like I've talked about this before, but Splash Mountain, all those animatronics are just repurposed.
Yeah, from another thing.
Yeah.
That was in that theater in Tomorrowland.
from like it's called like America Sings.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because I just assumed those were all new animatronics.
Oh, and didn't America Sings is one of the ones that shut down because somebody died during it?
No,
because
it's a stage show.
No, it was a revolving stage. It was the one where
no.
somebody fell down into the space in between where it was revolving in the audience.
God, that's
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Never think about that again.
Yep. As those ducks are singing and playing the banjo and stuff.
I mean, that's like the most frightening thing I can possibly imagine. Therefore, my special fear involves something like that. I have a very specific fear, and my fear is being sawn in half on stage in front of an audience that doesn't know that you're really being sawn in half. And it's a big, it's like an old horror trope, probably never going to happen. My worst fear. That is my worst fear. Is either being sawn in half or the thing where they like put you on a wheel and throw knives.
Yeah. And then, but everybody, I feel like the psychological aspect of that is that everybody watching thinks that it's fake.
That's
and
what is so
nobody's going
frightening
to
about
come
it.
and help you.
There was somebody who died during a Christmas play in Italy a couple years ago, where it was the nativity, and they hung Judas on stage, and he really got hung.
Oh my God. That's so messed up.
So frightening.
Oh man.
Just the spectacle. The spectacle of death.
It's
Most frightening. And that's why I find
Catholic.
Yeah. That's why World's Fair things are the most interesting.
My fear is really gross, so I don't even know, but it involves a ride also.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's just because of an urban legend I heard when I was a kid about something that happened on a water slide to somebody.
Let's have it.
It involves braces and a bolt on a slide and somehow getting your braces stuck in a bolt on a water slide.
There's a lot of braces horror.
I can't deal with it. I've never had braces in my life. I'm at no risk for this, but I was like...
See, it's the same, yeah.
Yeah.
What if
it
that
would
happened?
never happen, but the thought of it is the worst to me.
Did you read a thing about how there's a bunch of colleges that have water parks?
No.
It was about how, I think it was Texas A&M or someplace, that they
Like an outdoor aquatic recreation area.
Yeah, with like slides.
Oh yeah. Well, like I feel like a lot of, I don't know.
You know what else? There's a park in New Jersey called Action Park. I think it's called Action Park. That there's this famous slide there that's like a 360 slide that everybody's like just.
Oh, you mean you go up around it?
Yeah, but
oh,
it's
wow.
not like well designed. It's like just a loop, and you're supposed to just go through the loop. And I think people got hurt on it every year. It's just one of those things where they were like, oh yeah, all the kids running it are just like drunk teenagers and like.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Something about that. It's frightening in a way. Very sticky.
So, I feel like, was it last week when we did questions?
Yeah.
That somebody asked us about how much TV we watch every week. And when I started thinking about that and we answered it, and I was like, you know what, I don't watch very much TV. Why don't I watch so much TV? I feel bad. I should be watching more TV. That's not Utopia. And so I made myself sit down and watch Gotham, the new show on Fox, the Batman before Batman show. And I liked it.
Did you not expect to like it?
I didn't expect to really care about it, and to be honest, I probably won't watch it again, though I set my DVR for it, so I could ostensibly watch it. But, like, it was interesting. Like, I felt like I was out of practice with TV, and that's why I liked it. Like, I hadn't sat down to watch a pilot of a show in a while.
I'll always watch a pilot of anything. I'm always just interested in, like, how do you get all this information?
Yeah.
And not make it really boring and expositional.
Well, Gotham does it by just doing straight up exposition, like, oh, well, look at who it is here, Detective so-and-so and so-and-so from Major Crimes Unit. Like, that's like actually a line from it.
Oh, look, you look like a baby penguin. Or somebody told me there's a lot of just really over-the-top foreshadowing.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. And that's so I wish you would have watched this, just because on some level, that stuff is really silly, and I don't know how they're going to continue to do that without doing a jump forward in time, because it feels like, if this is the first part of a movie and we're seeing, oh, there's young Poison Ivy and stuff, and young Selena Kyle, then eventually you need to have the payoff and have them become those people, but that's not going to happen, obviously. That's not the premise of the show, as far as I know. So I don't know, but at the same time, okay, so it's basically just a cop show, but it's set in Gotham, and it's sort of a heightened, very designed, like, it feels kind of like...
How's Ryan Atwood?
Ryan Atwood is the calm, the center of the storm. There's actually a line where somebody looks in his eyes and is like, there's danger in your eyes. And I was talking to my friend about this on G-Chat, and they're like, I didn't see any danger in his eyes. I was like, no, he's from Chino.
That's what it was like in OC, too. Everybody was always like, you're such a bad guy. And you were like, no, he's not. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he looks fine.
And he's tiny.
But, yeah.
He's not young anybody, right?
Yeah, he is. He's
young Commissioner Gordon?
Yes. Yeah, when he was, like, just made detective or something like that, yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know if he's even detective. He's not a rookie cop, I don't think.
Is Alfred on it?
Yeah. There's Alfred.
What's Alfred up to?
He's just taking care of young Bruce Wayne.
Right.
In the mansion.
Do we see Bruce's parents die?
Yeah. Of course.
I've seen Bruce's parents die so many times.
Yeah, we all have. We need to be reminded, though. They died. They definitely died.
I feel like I've seen
he
the
fell
Batman.
to his knees and he cried and he got covered in a blanket later.
The Crime Alley.
Yeah, in Crime Alley, which
the
is
Batman
Chinatown.
Story so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Is it shot in L.A.?
That part is definitely Chinatown and
Gotham.
Yeah.
Gotham.
Yeah, but I mean, the rest of it is like, it kind of reminds me of the set design and everything of like the Batman and Robin Batman movies.
Somebody said it was like Dick Tracy too, which I thought
totally.
I was like, that makes me want to. It's interesting too because I feel like superhero shows have been the domain of the CW for so long. That's like the place where they had superhero shows, and now it's like
and everything.
Yeah, now it's like, prestige superhero
Well,
shows.
it's still Fox, and I mean, it feels like a kid's show. It does. Like, it feels like kind of like Batman the Animated Show.
Well, I love Batman the Animated Show.
I know. I mean,
Batman the Animated Show is like the most sophisticated Batman that's ever existed.
I mean, I don't really know where this is going to go. It is interesting. It's also like, it's not like Smallville where it's like, it's not teen Batman. Like, he's a kid. He's not going to even get to his teenage years in the course of this show. So you just have to, like, forget about that plot, forget about it
Baby
being an
Batman.
Yeah. But, I mean, it does, I think tonally, though, the writing is terrible, but it's sort of supposed to be terrible, you know? It's, like, supposed to be kind of campy, and it does feel like kind of an antidote to the Nolan Batman.
Which are so campy, but don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely knows it's campy, and it's just, I mean, all of the sets are just so set-like, and it's like, you know, everybody...
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, you know, now that superheroes are, like, not content to just live in every single summer on the movie screens, but they have to be on TV, you know, I feel like this is about as interesting as you could ask for. I've never watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't really know what that's like, but I don't feel very interested.
I also did not watch Heroes. I'm trying to think of what other
I didn't watch
superhero shows.
I don't know. What were the last
They tried to make that Wonder Woman pilot with David E. Kelly that everybody said was like the most offensive thing in the world.
Well, now they're going to have Supergirl.
Right, which also, I mean,
CBS.
that feels right for Supergirl, though.
Yeah.
That's where Supergirl belongs.
Yeah. I
don't know anything about Supergirl, to be honest.
I don't know anything about Supergirl.
So again, maybe a blank slate. Like, I obviously have a lot of feelings about Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, what would be the show that you think, like, for TV specifically, so not just a superhero that you would want to see brought to any screen, but like one that you think is particularly lends itself well to TV?
I don't know. That's
or
a
like
good
a
question.
prequel or something.
Yeah, I mean, I have always said that I would really like a Catwoman and Poison Ivy buddy show.
Yeah.
Thelma and Louise type situation.
This might turn into that, except they're kids. They're both
But
there.
I would also like, you know, if they did Baby X-Men too, I'd be really into that, you know? Baby X-Men. Tiny little squeaky Wolverine.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like with this and with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the thing is to choose some corner of it that feels less like the centerpiece, like less like something that's obviously going to be in a movie, like explore the margins of this universe.
And I guess with Guardians of the Galaxy too, it's like, you know, go to a lesser known title, go to something that people don't have huge built-in preconceptions, that the people who like it are sort of a smaller faction.
Yeah, you have a pre-built world, but you don't have pre-built expectations.
I think there's something really uncanny about seeing characters that you know from drawings attempting to be represented as like realistic humans.
Yeah.
Like whenever they try to do real life Archie, it's always like frightening.
Yeah.
Because there's something about it just making it into real humans that
it's like that's not what I
you're
liked
like that's
about
not what
it.
he looks like.
Yeah.
He's got a nose that looks like murmur.
Yeah, that's going to be, I don't know.
That's saying that, I would love it if somebody made a movie or TV show adaptation of Afterlife with Archie, the horror comic Archie that is out right now, which they're doing, I think they're spinning it off into a Sabrina horror comic too.
Oh, really?
Which is about like the origins in Salem, Massachusetts of Sabrina's, you know, descendants who are witches.
Okay, all right.
Are you into it now?
No.
Right, you're not into horror.
I don't know. I mean, I liked Sabrina.
I guess I feel like horror and sci-fi are such close
No, they're
cousins.
not. And for me, that's always been frustrating because people have always assumed that you like genre stuff. You must like horror and you must like sci-fi.
You're like Roman on Party Down. You're like, no, I only like hard sci-fi.
No dragons. I'm all about dragons. Though.
No, I'm the no dragons person.
So like, yeah, I'm into
Western dragons. I'm into Eastern dragons. It's true though.
I'm into Southern dragons.
Spirited Away dragon. Sure. Totally cool.
Yeah, the water dragon.
Stupid medieval dragons. No thanks.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean...
Or even just, like, if they could get, you know, there are a lot of other weird medieval cryptids besides dragons. Dragons are just so normcore.
we need a good Scylla.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Hydra.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Oh my god, this is so off topic, but have you seen the trailer for the new Final Fantasy game?
No, is it amazing?
It looks so good! Oh my god, I feel like that franchise is sort of... I haven't played any of them for such a long time.
That's a medieval fantasy world I can get into.
Well, it's not, though. It's flexible enough. It can kind of take on whatever... It sort of has historically lived in sort of a steampunky type hybrid. This one, it's like a road drama with like 4 dudes driving around in a car, but like in kind of a post-apocalyptic world where they just drive around the countryside like killing monsters and stuff.
Sure.
It's like, and it looks like they all look like they're in a K-pop band, so it's like 4 hot guys driving in a car. Like, it looks amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm down with that. Like,
yeah, I'm down with Zelda. I've always said that's the one medieval fantasy thing
yeah.
I'm really into is Zelda.
Zelda is also just like, Zelda is like a mood and a frame of mind too.
Yes.
It's just like very peaceful and
Yes.
and calming even. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm selective about fantasy. I'm pretty much all in on most sci-fi.
I've
out
fallen
on
behind
horror.
on Outlander, but I'm totally gonna catch up.
I just want to watch the last episode. I want to watch the first one and the last one, and because I don't get Stars anymore. I canceled like half of my cable channels. It was very dramatic. But yeah, I want to watch the last one just because apparently it's got like a bunch of sex in it.
I think they all have a bunch of sex in it.
No, they haven't consummated yet. That's the big
that's
deal
like
about the finale.
That's like romance novels, though. It's like
Yeah,
build up the
all the-
tension
yeah.
till you can't take it anymore.
We'll see. There was a lot of sex in the first one.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of
and
sex in the last
sexy
one.
sex.
Yeah, yeah.
Not brothel.
Yeah, not just like decorative boob sex.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'll see if I keep watching Gotham. I don't know. I feel like I got my plate full between like New Girl and Utopia.
Oh, I caught up on I watched the first New Girl.
Oh yeah, no, it was good. I mean,
Great, yeah. Jessica Biel, good. They always bring in
Yeah.
actresses that you're like, oh yeah, she's funny if she has good writing.
Yeah.
Which is true of anybody. Where you're like, oh, I didn't know they could act because I've never seen them have anything funny to say before in a script. And she is great.
yeah.
I was like, oh, I see why Justin Timberlake.
All
They're both
mirrors make
multi-talented.
sense now to me as a song. You know, for some reason, New Girl was the thing I was thinking the most of when I was reading the Death of Adulthood thing.
Whenever people use Zooey Deschanel as like the punching bag for like infantilized girlhood, I'm just like, she's not like that. I don't really think of her as being like that.
Yeah, but I think
I mean, I guess I understand why people think that, but like Jess isn't like a helpless.
no, she's a principal now.
Yeah, exactly. She's
But-
a middle school principal.
I think that's the strange thing about New Girl though is that like her and Schmidt at least like are supposed to have pretty grown up normal jobs.
But it's like on Friends where it's like,
Yeah.
but they never have to do any work except for the episodes when they're at work.
Or they'll still be in the mindset of being kids and be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But it's like, you have what looks like a nice apartment that you probably don't have to pay that much rent on because you're splitting it between all these people. And you have a good job with a title. Like, you know, and a active love life and social life. That doesn't seem like but it's like the shows now have to be written in such a way where it's like, in order to make people identifiable or feel real, it's like they have to be still kind of stuck in some state of...
Right, but I think it's the whole thing about the death of adulthood is like the problem with adulthood was the implication that having these concrete markers of adulthood made you an adult, and it didn't, obviously. And you know, if you, I don't know, I don't miss adulthood. I'm not. I think there are lots of problems with what has replaced adulthood, but I think it's still better than.
Yeah, well, and like, we're referring to A.O. Scott's piece in the New York Times about that was called "The Death of Adulthood." It came out a couple weeks ago. It'll be like 2 weeks, I think, if you're listening to this. But you know, it continues to be discussed. I think they talked about it this week on Prince Movies podcast too. I mean, it's, you know, it's interesting, and I think that the main point, I think the main takeaway for me from it, and I think that bears repeating, is that like there's two completely different discussions you're having, whether you're talking about this for male-oriented entertainment and female-oriented entertainment, because it means the death of adulthood means one thing for one kind of narrative and a completely different thing for another. And the death of adulthood can be, I think, is like super liberating for stuff like Broad City and things like that. Like that's really progressive. And
I guess it's just like I don't I don't care if grown-ups like comic books and action figures, you know? And it was interesting to watch Mallrats and be like, oh, right, like there was a time when it wasn't just a given that adults love comic books, and like a person like Kevin Smith being like, you know, having Brody, the character in Mallrats, who's like a guy who is too old for comic books, who's really into comic books, or it's like, well, now comic books are kind of for adults more than anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's right for any specific medium to be assigned to an age group. Like,
well, what do you think about the YA debate?
Yeah, I mean, I have read a lot of YA. I've definitely like keep up to, you know, I'm up to date on whatever is the thing of the moment in that world. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to make that my life. I don't want to make that a cornerstone of the sphere of the entertainment that I take in. Like I don't, and that's something I feel like I can't prescribe to somebody else.
No, I think it's super individual. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at my bookshelves the other day and had this realization that it was like half crime fiction, which was just like not what I think of myself as being like, but I was like, oh, I guess I mostly read crime fiction. And when I think about it, it's like I buy books to read, but the books I really read are all like paperbacks.
Yeah.
And that is what I like. And if somebody was like, oh, you're an idiot because you only read, you know, trashy paperbacks, it's like...
Well, I think that there's I think that you can read... I think the trashy paperbacks are like, they're not the same as YA necessarily. Like there's like...
Well, I read Gone Girl last week, you know, where I was just any book that falls into a genre other than like serious literature can be marginalized, but like serious literature is all Jonathan Franzen.
Last few things that I read that were serious literature that I read because I read blog posts about them were all incredibly underwhelming. So, you know, from where I'm sitting, literature's dead.
It's because we live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I know, we don't read. But, I mean, you know, 2 or 3 times a year, I'll pick up a book that's a New York Times bestseller.
I mean, I read Gone Girl so fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
and I really enjoyed it, you know?
I think that that's interesting, though. I mean, I want to read that book, and I'm looking forward to the movie, and I think that it does feel like kind of an event now, though, when a movie or a book comes out that's, like, very expressly for adults. Like, it's not a 4-quadrant film or property or whatever. Like, it's like something where if you had a kid, you would have to give them a babysitter.
It's also just like there's good stuff in every genre, and comparing Harry Potter to something like Divergent, it's like Harry Potter is incredibly well written and great.
I don't know if I got that far.
Come on.
I don't think it's well written. I think it's well crafted. I don't think it's well written.
It's very readable, which to me is
sure.
well written. If something is hard to get through, then I don't think it's well written, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you kind of, but I don't think that she's a very good writer in those books. I haven't read her non-Harry Potter.
I mean, I've just read some YA that makes the excellence of Harry Potter really be thrown into, you know, and it is for kids. It's for kids, and if adults want to be into it, they can't be angry that it's not for them, that it's not about like Dumbledore's, you know, struggle with his sexuality.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing, though. It's like I think that it's a good impulse to want to be challenged by the things that you read and the things that you watch and listen to. And
what if I don't want to be challenged?
I don't think that's true, though. I think you do. I mean, I don't think that you would. I don't know. I've been
watching a lot of Real Housewives of Melbourne, so.
Oh, look. I mean, I say this as somebody who's watched every single episode of Utopia, like right after they air.
Utopia, I think, is like a smart show because.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what I was saying is, like, I think that that's a good impulse, and I think that part of, like, adults reading YA that. And I'm not anti it. I think that you should be able to read whatever you want to read. But I think the thing that I am cautious, at least with myself, about is that I don't want to fall into a pattern where I'm just reading things that are comfortable.
Sure. I guess it's just what I'm talking about more is sort of the tendency in academic writing to make things needlessly complicated in order to prove that you are intellectual, which I always feel is stupid, because to me it's like if you want to get across a complicated idea, you should make it as accessible as possible. And making a complicated idea more complicated and less accessible to the people who already don't understand it seems very just like snobby and not necessarily intellectual, just more difficult.
Well, that reminds me, I've been rereading this. Speaking of books that I read, I've been rereading this book that's actually one of my favorite books of all time by Douglas Hofstadter. It's called I Am a Strange Loop. He did Gödel, Escher, Bach, that book. But it's very, like, he writes in a very colloquial manner about, like, physics and mathematics and the philosophy of the self and stuff, but he calls the way that he writes, like, I think he calls it like doggies and horsies writing or something. It's like very plain spoken, and I appreciate, but the content is challenging, and I mean that's
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a sweet spot, I think. But
and it's it's a personal preference, obviously. If somebody wants to read really complicated, wordy, naughty type of stuff, that might be pleasurable for somebody else. I just personally have been enjoying reading books that I want to finish.
Yeah. I think a lot of my TV intake now has been very, to me, feels like chill out zone. So I've been wanting to read and watch movies that are like more challenging. But it switches sometimes. Sometimes I'm watching like shows that I end up thinking a ton about or like wanting to write a ton about, and I'm listening to pop music all the time.
I've definitely gone too far into the camp zone too, of like, oh, I just want to watch like trashy, interesting trash, and then
I feel starved by that after a while.
Well, yeah, me too. That's the thing, is I think if you don't have a balanced diet, you feel hungry for things like that. The thing I always talk about is when I watched Myra Breckinridge. There's a movie adaptation of Myra Breckinridge that is like so hateful in every way. Like, it should be, the book was sort of like this big sensation and really poppy and interesting, and then the movie is just like it hates itself and it hates the audience, and it's campy, but in this just like made me feel terrible afterwards, and I was like, okay, time to watch some Bergman movies.
Right, yeah.
But also, Bergman movies are funny. I feel like people kind of misrepresent them.
Yeah, that's another thing I think too, is
and
that
like Cassavetes too, just the things that you think of as being like the most serious.
And then you're like, this feels like a lark. It feels like, especially with Cassavetes, it's like, oh, this is just like hanging out with people, and sometimes they're not having fun, but like it's as easy as sitting around and listening to people have a conversation, and
it's naturalistic.
It's not like Antonioni or something. Like,
I'm not a big Antonioni person.
No, me neither. But but that's the other thing I think about anytime you try to do a very broad argument about what kinds of things people should be watching or reading or something. You do. It's not like when you write that piece, you can't go back and rewatch and reread everything you're talking about. And so I think a lot of times things get generalized about being like more fun or less fun, or more vegetables, or more
it's
candy.
Like Godard is really fun, and Godard is all like giving you vegetables, but in a way where it's like, all the jokiness of it, and the avant-garde, it's like cutaway jokes.
Yeah, and you still have to think about what you're. I'm not a big Godard person personally, but you do have to. You can't just sit back and like kick back, I feel like, and watch a Godard film unless you've seen it a million times. Like, if you've seen Breathless a million times, you can do that. But it's like,
well, Breathless you can definitely kick back, but I mean, just even the sort of crazy one, the more just super rigorously Marxist ones, I feel like they still have just jokes.
Yeah. It's so French, all of it.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know where. I mean, you said you read a rebuttal to the Scott.
Yeah, I read a piece by Sadie Doyle in These Times where she was talking about. She was sort of rebutting it as being like she wasn't even rebutting it, because I guess she was like agreeing with sort of what he said, but just sort of saying that like for women to be allowed to be sort of childish on their own terms, that it's different than the sort of infantilization of women of like a Betty Draper, which is the old model of adulthood, that you let somebody be in charge and you trust what they're saying and you let them take care of you, and then obviously the problem with that is that they are bullshitting and they don't know what they're doing, and it creates a kind of false order of like, okay, we all listen to this person. Like I was making a joke of like, Adulthood died with Walter Cronkite, but I sort of mean that of just like the idea of like, okay, there's a guy who knows everything that's going on, and he's gonna like take care of everybody.
Well, that's, I feel like the irony and why there's two different conversations you're having when you talk about it is that, like, yeah, for a long time, to be a grown-up as a woman meant to have somebody else take care of you. And that's
like the great, you know, and that's still so built into everything, and that's, you know, kind of what Housewives, I feel like, is a weird subversion of this idea of, like, oh, I'm just letting him take care of me, but, like, secretly I'm in charge of everything.
Or, like, I'm letting him take care of me, which means he's never around, like, I'm a latchkey kid, and I'm going to cause trouble while my husband isn't around.
You just see what's not actually glamorous about it, which is anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just a fan of, like, I'm a fan of trying to be better. If I'm going to just put it in as broad terms as possible. So I think, like, you know, I also think that people should read whatever they feel like is interesting to them and, like, keeps their minds active. And if that's the Hunger Games books, then sure. I mean, still haven't finished the last one, but I thought the first one was I thought it was genuinely interesting and, like...
Oh, yeah, it's about classism.
Yeah, it's about reality TV and classism. Those are, like, my two favorite things in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not the actual institutions, but...
I mean, you know, nobody would argue that, you know, Roald Dahl isn't, like, incredibly intelligent and something that kids are reading, but also is, you know, terrifying for adults to read.
Yeah. You just can't judge... You can't judge a book by its spine. You know, where it says, like, young adult or horror.
I mean, when I was a kid, I only wanted to read, like, grown-up books, you know? I was, like, very, like, I'm 8 and I'm gonna read Melville because that will prove to everybody how smart I am, and I enjoyed it, but, you know, I also... I do remember resenting that people were always trying to get me to read sort of those... the type of YA books that are about, like, going to your aunt's house for the summer and getting your period for the first time.
Books and stuff.
Or, like, books about girls and horses I was never into, and everybody... There's so
you
many
never
books
read any
like
Judy
that.
Blume?
No, I read Judy Blume, and I read, like, Misty of, whatever it is, Chinkati?
I don't know. A lot of the horse books I missed out on.
But that was, like, the type of things people would recommend to you as a kid. It's like, oh, you should read this.
Yeah.
And I would be like, no, I want to read... serious literature.
Yeah. I think I got really disillusioned around, like, the end of high school by the fact that I would never be able to read every great book, and then I kind of gave up. It's like,
I think just reading great books in high school also makes you a little disillusioned because you don't enjoy them when you have to study them. And also, I just remember being very strongly feeling that The Great Gatsby was not a good book.
Oh, yeah.
Or that it wasn't the great American novel because it's a novella. That was my argument.
Oh, well. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And I had like a very contentious argument with a teacher about Test of the D'Urbervilles. That was like a book that was like my teacher's favorite book, and I just like hated it. And just, you know...
I never read it.
She's just like a victim the whole time, and it's not her fault ever. But I was just like such a contrarian that I feel like I was arguing to my teacher.
It's like a Lifetime movie.
Oh, it is her fault on some level. Like, she could be doing stuff to get out of this situation. And my teacher was like, no, she can't. Like, she has to marry her weird cousin. You know, it's all just about how rigid everything is. And I think I just also was just like, this is not how I want the world to be, therefore I, like, reject it.
Yeah.
And I understand her point of view more now, and, you know, I'm sure maybe she had things that made her find that, like, a comforting point of view. Like, bad things happen and it's nobody's fault, you know?
I think that I do think that, in a way, as you get older, there's a lot of things that you didn't find, you thought that were simplistic when you were a kid. I guess this isn't that big of a revelation, but things that you thought were simpler when you were a kid. Or, like, movies that didn't make you cry when you were a kid and you watch them again and you're, like, bawling. Like, it's just, like, you know, you get more...
Oh, God, I watched La Bamba the other day.
Oh, wow.
You know, I've seen it before, but I just hadn't watched it in a while, and just bawled my eyes out. It's so sad. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. It's such a great movie. And, yeah, and it made me cry so hard.
Well, I think we're about. That's about everything we've got for now.
Yeah.
That's it.
You want to trade animals?
Sure. Okay. Lobster, 2. Wolf.
Yes.
The wolf and the lobster at home at last.
You said it was like a Game of Thrones title.
It is. The Song of Wolves and
Wolf.
Lobster. That does it for us this week. We'll see you next week on Girls and Hoodies.
Bye-bye.
You see, every podcast we put on YouTube comes with this fancy graphic listing all the topics that your favourite Grantland podcasters are talking about. If you click the topics, you can skip around and choose your own podcast adventure. Subscribe to the Grantland Podcast channel to blaze your own trail on this sonic journey.